Ambergris Caye versus Tulum. If you've ever wondered about owning a property abroad, you've probably seen over the years all the amazing posts about the different artwork, the aesthetic, the amazing prices on real estate in Tulum and maybe in other places around the world. And that's probably why you're clicking this video. Well, I'm gonna give you my complete breakdown today of Tulum versus Belize, specifically Ambergris Caye, and why you might want to look away from Tulum and look towards Ambergris Caye. Now, I'm gonna try to be as unbiased as possible. You guys know me, if you've watched my videos, you know I'm a Belize guy, but I wanna give you the cold, hard facts today. So I'm gonna give you a breakdown of 6 specific chapters. Chapter 1 will be your high-level comparison, language, ownership rights, all of these different things. Chapter 2, we're gonna talk about transportation, getting to the areas, getting around the areas, all those important details. 3, potential for growth. You know, how much room is there to grow? Where are we at in the scheme of time? Things like that. 4 is our big one, rental income and rental income potential, which will bring us to 5. Everyone's favorite subject, of course, is taxes. And number 6, we're gonna end off with getting your residency and your citizenship. So strap up and get ready, because this is gonna be a very exciting one. Chapter 1, the high-level details. So before we start and break down the actual specifics of the rental market and the potential for appreciation, we have to look at things like ownership rights, language. All of these things are the foundation of any real estate investment. And for me, they're the most important things when I'm looking at a market. So first and foremost, Tulum and Mexico. If you guys don't know this, then you're living under a rock. Mexico is a Spanish-speaking country, population of about 127 million. So comparing to Belize, Belize has about 450,000 people and is English-speaking. So we're talking about very different countries here. Even though they're located and share a land border, it's actually a major difference there. So looking at Tulum specifically now, population of about 46,000 within Tulum, and you do have a variation during the high season or peak season where you'll see an increase of about 20,000 people. Personally, I think that might even be a little higher. Obviously, you have people that maybe they want to be a snowbird. They'll be in Canada or northern US. They'll come down to Tulum for the winter. Maybe you have just the high season then when people are traveling more, but you're gonna see that fluctuation probably up to around 65,000 people, depending on which season you're in. If you look at the language, Spanish speaking, as I said. Now, what are the impacts on ownership rights of having a country that is Spanish speaking? Typically in the region, you'll find that Spanish speaking countries have a legal system that's based on Napoleonic civil law. What does that mean for you as an investor? Well, it means there is a 2-tier ownership structure in Mexico. So as a non-citizen or non-resident, you do not have the same ownership rights that a local Mexican national would. Now, there are ways to navigate this, and we are gonna hear from a lawyer in a bit here about some of the ways you can do that and how their law firm can help you do that. But overall, it is not the most secure form of ownership rights, and it is one step below what you're going to find in Belize, which does have full foreign ownership rights, and I'll elaborate a little more on that in a minute here. Beyond that, there are these things called the restricted zones. Let me tell you a little bit about those. In Mexican law, foreigners and locals do not have the same ownership rights. So 50 kilometers from the beachfront backwards, and also 100 kilometers from a border, any Mexican border moving inward, you can't own those properties if you are not a national Mexican. Now, there are creative ways you can find to own property in those zones, but obviously you're going to be operating in a gray area. That's one of the important things to note. Although the beach is beautiful, it is a lot trickier to own property here. Again, the ways that people typically navigate this are going to be using a trust or a Mexican corporation or having a Mexican national help you with that, but you're going to have to navigate that system. Now, comparing Belize from a property ownership and language perspective. So Belize is English speaking, and that has an impact on the legal system as well. So Belize has a British parliamentary democracy, and this is one of the reasons why I've been in Belize for over a decade. You have some of the strongest ownership rights from a real estate perspective that you'll find anywhere in the world. So full foreign ownership, you can have your name on the title, you can have a US LLC on the title, really any type of corporation you want, and that property is in your name. So no real difference there from being a local to a foreigner. There are some slight changes on taxes, which we're going to talk about in a later chapter here, but overall, you have the same ownership rights. Beyond that, there's several other languages that are spoken within the country of Belize, just to give you a little more details. So you have Mayan dialects, a few different Mayan dialects, Garifuna, Creole is spoken around the country, Spanish, even some Dutch and German from the Mennonite population, but the primary language is English. You have two components to Belize. You have Central America and you have the Caribbean aspect, so over 200 Caribbean islands and the mainland component. Whereas when you look at Mexico, although the topography of Tulum and Ambergris Caye, where we're gonna be focusing on, are very similar, for the most part, you don't have as many of those islands in Mexico. You have on this coastline here in the Gulf, you have Cozumel and some others, Isla Mujeres, things like that, but not as many as you're gonna find within Belize. Why are we looking at Ambergris Caye when we're comparing to Tulum? Just so you guys understand, Ambergris Caye, it's the longest and largest island in Belize, so 24 miles long, about 3 miles wide at its widest. And Ambergris Caye is the #1 tourism destination within the country. Now, the reason that is because the Belize Barrier Reef, or the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef, probably the #1 reason why so many people come to Belize. It's the largest living reef on Earth. And at the northernmost point of the island, this magical thing happens where the reef actually touches the island. So a typical day on Ambergris Caye, you're gonna be looking out your window, you're gonna see the waves breaking on the reef, you're gonna have that amazing Caribbean breeze, and that is what makes Ambergris Caye so special, and that's why it sees over 40% of the annual tourism within the country of Belize. From the topography standpoint, one difference in Tulum, you'll notice the beaches can be longer. We do have some long, nice beaches in Belize. There are some amazing beaches, but Tulum has a little bit longer of a beach. And Ambergris Caye, we have the 181-mile long Belize Barrier Reef, or Mesoamerican Barrier Reef, which sits about 600 yards off the coastline. So that is the thing that makes Ambergris Caye one of the world-class destinations for snorkeling, fishing, diving, any water sports, whatever it might be. When you look at developable land or areas inland, you'll find that it's very similar. You have some mangrove areas, but you also have some areas with more black, arable land that's fertile soil. So it is a variety in here, but that's kind of your comparison on the demographics and typography of both. It's one thing for me to tell you guys about ownership rights, language, legal system, but it's better to hear it from the horse's mouth. That's why we tapped in with a Mexican lawyer, and he's gonna share a little bit right now.
Hola, mi nombre es Alan Aldana, soy abogado, soy cotitular de una firma de abogados aquí en Playa del Carmen y Tulum, llamada Eral Abogados. Algunos de los requisitos que deben cumplir los extranjeros para poder comprar es conocer que no pueden comprar directamente. La realidad es que, derivado de las cuestiones políticas y reglamentarias y de la misma Constitución, los extranjeros no pueden comprar 50 metros de costas y de zonas fronterizas. Entonces, la única opción que tienen es crear un fideicomiso en el cual es una figura totalmente legal, el banco es el dueño y ellos son los posesionarios. Pero esta figura legal les permite disponer del inmueble, de la propiedad. Es decir, pueden venderlo, heredarlo a sus hijos, pueden rentarlo. Vaya, legalmente no son dueños, pero físicamente, materialmente, sí lo son. Estamos ubicados en Playa del Carmen y Tulum, en ambas ciudades. Siempre estamos moviéndonos de una a otra. Y pues bueno, estamos aquí para estar a cargo de las compras que quieran hacer, para invertir legalmente y cuidadosamente, para cuidar su inversión en la ciudad y no se lleven sorpresas más adelante. No hay nada como tomar decisiones informadas.
Chapter 2, transportation. This is a big one because you guys might be sitting at home wondering, how do I get to Belize? How do I get to Ambergris Caye? How do I get to Tulum? I'm gonna break it all down. And one thing that always surprises my friends, family, and clients when I'm talking to them, I'll tell them, oh yeah, I went to Tulum last weekend and we had a great weekend there. They're like, really, how far is Tulum from San Pedro or from Belize? And the reality is, guys, when you go to the border and cross, it's only a couple hours away by driving. So it's very close. So a lot of things I'm gonna talk about in transportation are closely knit. The #1 way you're probably gonna get to Tulum now is with the brand new international airport, which I stopped at. Let's check it out quick. One of the major updates to transportation is the Tulum International Airport, which recently opened. As of March 2024, they opened international flights, and they have direct flights coming in from Canada, the United States, a lot of different locations, domestic flights within Mexico as well. So from an accessibility standpoint, this is huge for Tulum, but it's also huge for Belize in that if you are looking to get to Belize, it's a new route that you can take to get down here. And we're gonna talk a little more about specifics of exactly how that looks, what the passenger count is of people coming through here, but a major update for Tulum that also has an impact on Belize. Now, historically, the way you would have got to Tulum would have been to fly to Cancun, which is just another couple hours north of Tulum. And that's a major travel hub within the area. Outside of that, you might find people like myself that typically will go to the border and then drive up, or you're gonna find regional flights coming from places like Mexico City and other major destinations, and that's how you get to Tulum. When it comes to Belize, on the other hand, you really only have one international airport in the country of Belize. That's the Philip Goldson International Airport. So you'll fly in there. Any flight you're looking for. When people ask me, Will, how do I get there? That's the only one. Just go to Google Flights, put Belize International, that's where you're gonna fly to. From there to get to San Pedro, you have a couple options. You're either going to take the water taxi, which runs every 30 minutes or so, or you're gonna take a Tropic Air or Maya Air flight, and that's about a 15-minute beautiful puddle jumper flight looking out over the Caribbean Sea. But Tulum has one more exciting update that, again, these are all going to have a crazy trickle down because now getting to Belize might even be easier as well with the Tren Maya, which is a massive infrastructure project. And we actually went by the Tulum station and I broke a little bit of it down for you guys. One of the major updates to the area from a transportation standpoint is the Tren Maya. Now you can see the Tulum station right behind me here. This is a multi-billion dollar project from the Mexican government to connect the areas of the Yucatan Peninsula. It actually goes through 5 states. And the first stretch from Cancun is already open. This should be open fairly soon. It might even be open right now. I'm gonna go actually take a look. But essentially it's 1,600 kilometers, just under 1,000 miles of train. When you get to Tulum, you're gonna find that the standard way to get around usually is taking a taxi or renting a scooter. Now, the reason you might want to rent a scooter is because, well, the traffic can get kind of bad. One of the most common critiques you might hear about Tulum is the access to the beach area. When you look at the landscape, you have a grid when you move into areas like Aldea Zama or La Valeta or the actual Tulum town in there. But when you come to the beach, there's only 2 access roads right now, and it used to be 1 access road. So what you would find back in the day, it'd be almost 2 hours to get in here, 2 hours to get out. Now the additional road has alleviated that a bit, but you will still have to deal with that issue. Now in slow season, you're not gonna experience it as much, but it is something just to be aware of from a landscape and master planning perspective. As for getting around San Pedro, Belize, the standard method to get around is going to be a golf cart, but it's a very small kind of knit community when you're in San Pedro. You might walk, you might take a bike, or you might take a taxi, but typically it'll be a golf cart. So when we break down transportation, although all of the things happening in Tulum do benefit Belize, I have to give the nod to Mexico from a transportation standpoint. Chapter 3, let's talk about the potential for growth. And I actually was just walking down the main strip in Tulum, and I have a little bit of insight that I want to share with you guys before we do the chapter. One of the key takeaways I want to point out as we go through this market comparison is the competition aspect. When I'm in a place like Tulum, as a consumer, I have infinite options. I can go into the store I just purchased this outfit from, or I can go to this one right here, or that one right over there. I have all of these different restaurants, but that means that it is highly competitive. When you're entering this place as a business owner or as a real estate investor, all of these cutting edge things, the artwork, the aesthetic, it's all here. Whereas if you can just take little pieces from a place like this and bring them to a market ahead like Tulum, we got my guy right here, then you're gonna be ahead of the curve in a place like Belize. Beyond that, I wanna mention one more thing. What are some of the key indicators to know that you're in a market that is maybe overdeveloped or you might be behind the curve? Well, you're gonna see places like that coming in. So all of these big American franchises like Starbucks, Domino's, they're all around Tulum now, and we still don't have a single American franchise in the country of Belize. So to summarize, it is very competitive here. As a consumer, it's great. As a business owner or entrepreneur or real estate investor, it is difficult. By contrast, you do not have any American franchises or any American food franchises, I should say, within the country of Belize. Obviously, there's things like Remax, Century 21, Hilton, Marriott, some of these type of franchises, but no food franchises yet, which is, in my opinion, one of the biggest indicators of where we are in the scheme of time within Belize. So imagine being able to get in a time machine for a second, go back 30 years to, Honolulu, Hawaii, or one of these island markets where there was not even a franchise fast food restaurant there yet. And what would the prices have been then? That's the ability you have within Ambergris Caye, Belize right now. By contrast, when you look at Tulum, and I want to take out one of my favorite tools here, which is the historical Google Earth tool. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what the growth looks like here. So just watch this. This market has grown so much And it's grown to the point where quite literally I could drive 5 miles, 10 miles away from the beach and still find developments. And in fact, I actually did that. Currently, guys, I am now 26,000 feet from the beach. That's right. I measured it exactly on Google Earth. And you might be wondering, why is he measuring how far he is from the beach? That's a good question, guys. So 26,000 feet, it's about 5 miles. And the reason I'm over here is to talk to you guys about equity appreciation in this market and the crux, the catch-22 about being in Tulum and investing in Tulum. So you'll notice behind me, there are developments over here, and I'm not even halfway to the furthest development where these span out in the Tulum area here. You can even look right here. There's another sign for an up-and-coming development. For all we know, next week, I'm gonna walk down the street over there and start the next development. So the reason I'm mentioning this, guys, is when you're looking at equity appreciation in the market, we're looking really at supply and demand. You want to see supply remaining somewhat constant. It can grow at a decent pace, but remaining somewhat constant, and demand increasing, which is going to drive your values up. One of the biggest beauties of the Tulum market, I'm going to give you the pros and cons now, is it is affordable to enter the Tulum market because you can carry on, and land values are really having a hard time getting off the ground because there's so much land. The downside of this, of course, guys, is that it's harder to realize equity appreciation in this market. So just to give you a little bit of a breakdown of the pros and cons, and why not? Let's do it on the highway in Tulum, guys. We've kind of looked at a lot of the different factors, guys, that go into the potential for growth in a market. And if you're investing, you want to be ahead of the curve. You want to get in the path of progress, which undeniably, I can say that Tulum has been historically in the path of progress, and so has Ambergris Caye Belize, and both probably still are. But where the rubber meets the road on this one is the ability for developers, investors, anyone to just come into Tulum, go 11 miles out now, go 12 miles out now. Okay, let's go a little bit north. Let's go a little bit south. It's limitless, guys. You need to have a limit on the supply, and you need to have the demand increasing to realize those appreciations in the market. And you just simply do not have that in Tulum. When you look at Ambergris Caye, you have a set amount of developable and available land. And as demand increases, they can't make more land. So what about island economics? Island economics is one of the key phenomenons that makes Ambergris Caye a much more viable option for investment. So what do I mean by that? To put it simply, island economics are, they're not making any more land. So it is a set supply of available real estate. And as demand increases in these different islands, that's where you see the crazy appreciation. So places like Hawaii, for example, or looking at Cayman Islands, Bahamas, really take a look at any islands like that on Earth, and you'll find the effect of island economics. So to put it simply, you want to invest in places where they can't just keep building and building and building new resorts and developments, because you're going to find that a lot of those developments are actually more affordable now than when people bought them, and that's not what they were expecting, but it's one of the downfalls of not having island economics. So from the potential for growth, taking that factor, and then looking at all the American franchises, all the indicators that I could possibly find, not to mention how competitive it already is in Tulum, I would have to give a resounding win to Ambergris Caye Belize on the potential for growth side. Chapter 4, let's talk about rental income. This is the meat and potatoes. This is why you guys came here. Let's dive into it. Now, first and foremost, guys, I want you to just do a simple eye test for me. And I'm gonna put it up on the screen here, but after the video is done, go do this yourself and trust but verify. So look here, I'm scrolling through Airbnb for Tulum, and you can get an idea of what the prices are like. Now, by contrast, let me show you what Ambergris Caye looks like. So you're gonna notice a very distinct difference. And it's actually so ridiculous here in Tulum right now, because going back to my last chapter, the ability to continue to develop, continue to build inventory. One of the reasons why people love Tulum, oh my God, the price tag looks great, but now there's 5 more of my units right there. There's another 100 over there. In fact, inventory has grown by so much now that for me to rent this 5-bedroom villa in Tulum cost me a couple $100 a night. So this is driving the rental market down, all of the new supply of inventory entering the market. And we're gonna be looking at real world examples in this chapter. We're gonna talk to owners, and I'm gonna break down some examples at the end. But first, let me talk to you guys a little bit about the rental data in the markets. Let's look at the numbers now. So Ambergris Caye on Airbnb has 439 active listings, as well as demand change over the past 3 years. We've seen a 19% increase in demand. Over the first 8 months, we've had 470,367 tourists arrive by airport, which has been a 30% increase from 2023. Occupancy rate on average for the year was 59%. So you have the high season in February at 82% and low season in September at about 37%. So you have that 59% occupancy, and you can see here on the graphs that visualization. Moving forward, we have an average daily rate in Ambergris Caye of $244.9 in the market. Now, why is it so much higher in Ambergris Caye? Well, although it might be a little more difficult to enter the market, you might not have as many condos or homes that you can purchase right now. You might have to build. If you can go through those barriers to entry, it's also limited the amount of people that have rentals in the market. Now we have one more phenomenon that is very interesting, and I'm sure Tulum sees some of this phenomenon as well, which is the wave of baby boomers that are currently retiring. Every time one of these baby boomers comes down, buys a condo or buys a home in Ambergris Caye, in Belize, even some in Tulum, what you're gonna find is that that unit is actually gonna be taken out of the rental inventory. So we've seen years where our rental inventory has actually shrank in Belize because so many baby boomers were coming down and buying condos to live in full time. Now Tulum, the supply of new inventory has far outpaced that, so they don't experience that phenomenon, but there are baby boomers that are coming to Tulum that are doing that as well. So your average annual revenue on a property in Ambergris Caye, 43,000.2K. Your total revenue month by month. And we're gonna break this one down on a graph for you guys. So you'll notice that October is typically gonna be your slower months. And we have the graph here that will show you guys exactly what that looks like. That's Ambergris Caye. Now let's talk about Tulum a little more. So Tulum has significantly more rental units in the market, and it is a much more competitive market. 6,335 rental units on Airbnb with an occupancy rate of 46%. Now the occupancy rate has had a 1% decrease from 2023 to 2024. So the high end was at 56% in January with the low end at 34% in September. That average occupancy rate you can see right here in the graph, as well as the low and high. The average daily rate in Tulum was $199, which is down $1, but I have reason to believe that actually currently it is going significantly lower than that based on everything we've seen online and on Airbnb. The annual revenue for a unit on average is about 28,000.5K, again a 1% decrease from 2023. And then you've got your monthly revenue, which we've shown on this graph right here. Now we know some of the basic facts, but there's more to this than just that. The taxes, the expenses, and the firsthand experiences are the most important things you guys are gonna hear. So let's go over and check some properties out. We've looked at some of the high-level data, and now it's time to look at some real-world examples. I got the case studies ready for you guys. So I'm standing at a townhome in Tulum, and we're gonna look at a couple examples here in Tulum and a couple examples in Ambergris Caye, Belize. So starting with the one right behind me, which is actually listed at 165, and we're gonna hear from the owner who owns a house in Secret Beach and this townhouse right behind me, and he's gonna give us the pros and cons and comparison of both. So let's hear a little bit from Trevor Stack before we tour the property.
Hey guys, it is Trevor Stack here from Remax 100 in Belize, and today we are at my boogie pad in Tulum. There's a lot of pros and there's also a lot of cons as well. The main pro is if you're into it, Tulum is just a fun place. There's a lot going on here. It's a rapidly growing place.
I came here for a healing journey. Everything I found has been able to heal me in ways that I didn't even know I needed to be healed. I've immersed myself a lot with the culture and the art that's around here.
In terms of the downsides, the cons of owning in Tulum, the first thing that I would mention is almost every property here is a pre-sale. So if someone's looking to purchase property here, they're most likely buying off a rendering. Very rarely does the entire process actually unfold the way that you envision, and very rarely do you end up getting the property that you imagined. The second obstacle to purchasing real estate in Tulum or in Mexico in general, as an expat, you don't actually own the property outright, meaning that you don't hold the land title under your name like you do in Belize. Instead, what happens is if you're doing this with a pre-sale, the developer will give you what's called a promissory note, meaning he promises to deliver the unit, and you end up setting up a bank trust to actually own the property, which can be quite the process. The biggest downside, I'll say, to investing in Tulum is just the sheer amount of competition when it comes to renting the property. The reason why I'm actually selling this property now is simply because I'm not using it very often. I'm really only here for maybe a few weeks out of the year. And then when I'm not using it, it's just too competitive of a market in the vacation rental market. If you look at what you can get for, $100 a night, $200 a night in Tulum compared to the cost of building that property, and then you add in the property management fees, the HOA fees, the property taxes, the Airbnb fees, the utilities, it is tough to make money in this market.
Hello, the big dog himself. Oh.
Thanks for coming.
Guys, Trevor Stack, you've seen him in many of the videos before, I'm sure. This is his property. Trev, thanks for showing us around, man.
Thanks for coming to take a look.
Can't wait to see it.
Out. So here's the entrance. Here we have a private parking stall with a gate that locks, cameras above, Ring doorbell, extra lights out here.
The doorbell works.
So here we have the main level, kitchenette. Good use of not a lot of space, but yeah, so we have the kitchenette, we have all the cupboards here. In here is just a laundry room, so not a lot to see back here. This is kind of just storage area, washer dryer, water heater.
And what's the layout here, Trev? Is this a 2-bed, a 1-bed?
So this is 1 bed, 2 bath, 2 stories with a really big rooftop deck. Because it was just me, this at the time was my bachelor pad, I thought I'd have a lot more lounging area, a lot less bedrooms.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, so here's the living area. Pretty simple, nice L-shaped couch. We have the TV.
What's going on over here? What do you got going on inside here? Is that a cold plunge I see?
It is, yeah. So that's actually a plunge pool. I also have a heater to convert it into a hot tub. Nice little thing to have out there, along with kind of a loungy area. Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite features of this design was these high ceilings, the sunlight above us shining down to this this stairway going upstairs.
Yeah, you get a lot of
nice and funky
natural light in here. Looks great.
100%. All right, so we are now at my favorite part of the house, which is this whole upper level.
It's amazing so far.
So here we have a king-size bed,
Yep.
closet, bathroom, shower, and then this huge rooftop deck out this way. So this was all custom. This was, the original design was just totally open.
It's got the full energy here, and I'm starting to get the picture now. This house, or townhouse I should say, I think makes sense for, like we've talked about in the video, it's not investor's paradise here, although Tulum has an array of benefits for people that they should be looking at. It seems like this place is great for someone that wants a change of lifestyle. Maybe they want to get to Tulum and actually live here, and they don't need a tremendous amount of space. A 1-bed, 2-bath would work for them. They can have their guests downstairs. It seems like a great buy for someone that just wants to be in Tulum. All right, I've seen enough. It's time to show us your property in Belize.
Ready to go.
Let's do our magical teleportation effect.
Ready.
Ready?
Listo.
1, 2, 3.
All right, so now we're sitting here in my house in Secret Beach, and I'm gonna walk you through this as an investment property. So it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, roughly 800 square feet with a covered balcony outside. It's been listed on Airbnb for roughly a year. The average occupancy rate is 82.5%. Of course, during the busy months, it's pretty much always occupied. So December, January, March, April, all the way to May, there might be 1 or 2 turnover days a month. Besides that, it's always occupied. Average nightly rental rate is $200 to $250 a night. During the peak season, might be surpassing $300 a night, but the average, about $225 a night. When it comes to gross income, I'm usually hovering right around 5,000 USD per month. After all of my expenses, so after I pay the property manager, home insurance, the odd repair, I net right around 4,000 USD a month, so that's how much I keep at the end of the month. Comparing that to the Tulum market, where I can't really even break even, there's no question that this is a better place to invest. Seeing as this has been performing so well, in fact, it's really exceeded my expectations, I plan on establishing as many more of these as I can in this market.
We've now heard from someone who's invested in both Ambergris Caye and Tulum and why they had a better experience and a better return in Ambergris Caye, but I want to show you a couple more examples. First in Belize, and then we're going to look at one in Tulum. So right now, this is a 4-bedroom with an additional loft. It's also got 3 bathrooms, and this home has done approximately $189,000 in gross revenue over the last year. Now, when you look at the average occupancy rate of about 82 to 89%, and also your average daily rate of $667.60 per night, these are very attractive numbers from an investor standpoint. Now, the reason that Tulum can get really sticky and tricky is when you actually look at the management, but more importantly, the taxes. So keeping in mind that the management split on a home like this is 80-20 or 90-10 in Belize on Ambergris Caye, that's one of the reasons why you might want to look at Belize. Now, there are a couple of this exact model available, so if you want to get more details on that, my email's up there on how you can own one of these homes and secure numbers like that in the rental market. But from here, guys, it's time. Let's go look at why I think Tulum is damn near impossible to make rental income in. Now we have our next example, which is this 2-2 located in the Aldea Zama area of Tulum, one of my favorite areas when I'm staying here. There's tons of commercial going on here, different developments, restaurants, a lot of stuff going on. I love the area. So this is a 2-2, as I mentioned. It has a nice courtyard with a dipping pool. Outside, it has a shared communal pool for the development here. Then you also have a gym. Now for this place, we rented this for $50 per night. Typically in high season, it would rent for $71 according to Airbnb where we booked it. And if you take that and just say, okay, for example, we're gonna take the price we got it for and what it regularly rents for and kind of average that out to get what you might rent it for on average per year, you'd be looking at about $60.50 per night. And times that by your 80% occupancy rate, and you're gonna find, get my calculator out here, 60.5 times 365 times 0.8. You're gonna find that the gross income on this property would be around $17,666. But that does not include your expenses. And more importantly, it doesn't include one of the biggest segments of this video, taxes. Now you guys have seen what it can look like, how much money you can make with a 2-2, but let's look at how the taxes look and just delete the expenses of property management out of this. Typically, you're gonna find property management is gonna be 10 to 20%, sometimes high as 50% in either Tulum or Ambergris Caye. So it depends on who you're going with. Let's take a look at Mexico first. Actually, no. You know what? No. For this chapter, we're doing Belize first. Belize, you get one chapter first. So in Belize, we have extremely low property taxes. Typically, it's gonna be about 1% of the assessed value of just your land. So for example, take a house in Mahogany Bay, you're probably gonna pay about $150 per year in taxes. We have no estate tax, we have no capital gains tax, we have some of the most favorable short-term rental taxes you're gonna find with a 9% rental tax rate on short-term rentals. Business tax is usually 1.75%, and the rental tax is paid to the Belize Tourism Board. And if you don't believe me, go check from the horse's mouth, search what is the short-term rental tax in Belize. The BTB's website will pop up and it will say 9%. Very simple, very clean. That's taxes in Belize. You're probably sitting there thinking, wow, well, that's great. Now let's look at the Mexico side, and this is where you're gonna find that the numbers start to not make sense. And you might be thinking to yourself in this chapter, again, I'm biased and you know that's where I kind of lean to, but when you look at the numbers here, it's going to start to look really clear, especially after looking at the ownership rights. So when you look at Mexico, you have a 25% tax on your gross rental income with an additional 16% VAT tax that is paid by the renter. But when you take that together, that's 41% is going to tax on your rental income. Then you factor in the fact that you have to pay a property manager unless you're living here, and that's gonna be anywhere from 10 to 50%. So where does the money come from? How do the numbers make sense when you're investing here? Well, maybe you make your Airbnb just so damn good that people have to rent it, except here's the problem. They all are so damn good. Go on Airbnb and look right now. They all look amazing. And this is why, for me, Tulum is a travel destination and not an investment. I love coming to Tulum. I love staying here. I love being able to go out and get an Airbnb for a really affordable rate. But for me as a real estate investor, I cannot make the numbers make sense. But let me finish here. Capital gains tax of 25% for non-nationals and non-residents. So compared to zero capital gains tax in Belize. Now the property taxes are very similar, less than 1% paid annually. So that is favorable for sure. And that's something that you're probably gonna be very excited about. And there is also no estate tax in Mexico. So you have some major cons on the Mexico side with some pros. You're gonna have more affordable property taxes. And then on the Belize side, you have one of the most favorable tax structures in the world. So when it comes to taxes, again, guys, I have to give the nod over to Ambergris Caye. Finally, you might want to actually move out of where you're from. We have more people every day. I'm getting so many messages of people saying, what is it like to move to Belize? Or how can I move to Belize? Or is it possible? And I'm sure that the exact same thing is happening in Mexico. Maybe you're unhappy with your current government. I'm not gonna go political here. Maybe you're unhappy with the weather. Maybe you just want to change a pace. Maybe you're young and you're saying, this is my time to fire the shot and move to Belize and film videos with Will. Whatever the reason is, I don't know what it is. That was directed at you, Dev. You might want to know about permanent residency. So on the Belize side, it's very simple. You can come to Belize and you can stay as long as you want. When you enter, they're gonna stamp you in with a 30-day tourist visa. So that's your basically temporary entry. Now, when you get that entry in, you can renew that every month at the immigration office. It's a fee of 100 US every month, and you can stay as long as you want. Once you've done that for a year, you can apply to be a permanent resident. Now, there's also the temporary investment residency program, which if you invest more than 250,000, you can apply and get residency in Belize right away, showing and quantifying that investment. After, if you want to go for the permanent resident route, so that would be going for that full year. Now you have your residency card, that's when you get that. And after 5 years of holding that residency card, you can apply to become a Belize citizen. Now, based on my research, Mexico is actually very similar. And I think residency is going to be actually almost a wash here. So when you come to Mexico, you can get the temporary residency, which basically is going to be done if you have a few different things. One, a family member who is a Mexican national. Two, you have financial means to just, say, I'm good, I can stay in Mexico, I got the bread, we're chilling. Or three, you have a work or job offer. So one of those three ways you can apply and get your temporary residency here. Now, to get permanent residency, you have to go through that temporary residency program and hold that for 4 years. Then you can get your permanent residency. And after that, after another additional year with your permanent residency, based on my research, you can apply to be a Mexican citizen. Now, any Mexican lawyers that are out there, that want to fact check that one, get in the comment section and let me know if that's incorrect, because I would love to have the right information down there. But based on everything I've read, that is the facts, guys. So probably right now you're sitting there thinking, Will, I want to learn more about how do I buy a property in Belize. And if I were you, I'd be thinking the exact same thing. My email is right up there, guys. I'm the regional owner for RE/MAX in Belize. We have 12 offices, over 100 agents countrywide. If you do want to learn more, shoot me an email and we can get you up to speed on different things like lots that start at 50,000 with 25% down financing. We're talking entry point properties in an emerging destination like Ambergris Caye, all the way up to your major, massive Airbnb, vacation rentals, whatever it is, private islands, doesn't matter, guys. Shoot me an email and my team will help get you all that info. And other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I can't wait to see you out here in paradise soon. And of course, guys, hit that sub button. We'll see you in the next video.